Friends, today we're talking about the 36th gift, the portion of Behaalotecha, and our topic today is humility and about being humble. And we understand that humbleness or humility is a challenging concept in our day and age. But let me start with a story. The maestro of a symphony was once asked, what is the toughest job to recruit for in an orchestra? And to the amazement of everyone, he said, second fiddle. And when they asked him why, he said, where the first fiddle, the main fiddle in the orchestra is easy. Everybody wants to be that star, that shining star in the head of the stage. But to ask and to recruit a second fiddle is very hard. To be humble and to act with humility is very difficult for individuals. And today we're going to explore this concept of humility, of being humble. We understand that according to the scripture, being humble does not mean to lower oneself. It does not mean to take oneself and to not have high self-esteem. But it means to recognize someone that is different than you. In terms of scripture, a humble person is a person that does not think about himself. You know why? Because he has more important things to think of than himself. And that is a definition of a humble person. Like one of my rabbis used to tell me a story. There was once a rabbi that every morning when he woke up used to look at the mirror and say, I have more important things than you. And he said that to himself, obviously to the mirror, every single day in order to practice the concept of humility. And humility has nothing to do with despising oneself or to inflicting oneself with about your wrongdoings, but it's about coming out of yourself and engaging with the other. And the definition, if we broaden it a little bit, is that humility is the ability to stand quietly with dignity and honor in the presence of the other individual, and to engage and to delve into the other person's personality without bringing your own personality into this interaction. And the more that the other is greater than you, the easier it becomes. When you see splendor, when you see nature, and obviously when you're in the presence of God, the self, the I, diminishes because you respect and you want to engage something that is greater than you. But not only something that is greater than you, and here's the great challenge, even something that you feel is in the same level as you, or worse, lower than you, you must deal with them in humility. And how do we achieve that? Why is humility and being humble so important? We know that an individual is a social creature, and God put in this world other individuals besides me in order to interact with them, to learn from them. The wisdom is not only within me, but within other people. There's ideology, there's certain understandings that we need to engage in. And when we engage in these understandings, we need to step out of ourselves, as we say, and engage the other. And the only way to do it is to put the other in the middle and diminish ourselves. It's not even diminishing. It's more like I have more important things than to think about myself at this stage, because I want to engage with the other individual. And when you engage with the other individual, your life is broadened. It's fertilized. It comes alive from other individuals that surround you. It is said about the Rebbe Milubavitch that an individual asked him once for advice, as they all did, and he sent him a letter. And to his amazement, the letter came back with no answer, the same letter that that guy wrote. But when he opened the letter, he saw that all the places where he wrote I went, I sat, I slept, I want, all the letters I were circled in a red marker. And he understood the message. The more you have I, self, in your life, then the more you cannot engage the other and you feel absence. And therefore it's a great lesson from the late Rabbi Milubavitch to understand that the more you remove the I from your life, the more you can engage the world and heighten it in the way of bringing all the factors into your life. In our week's portion, we have the most humble individual on the face of the planet. The story is in the end of the portion of Behaalotecha. The closest people to Moses, Miriam, Aaron, say some slander about Moses, and God rebukes them. And one of the words that they say is that they think they're on the same level of prophecy as Moses, so why is he different than them? Moses does not answer. The scripture answers for him. And it says, and I quote, "And the person Moses is the most humble individual that ever lived on the face of the earth." And then God goes on to rebuke Miriam. How did Moses get this superlative of being the most humble individual? Did he know that even? Moses did not even bother with being humble. Humble is not something that you achieve. It's something that happens. And if we follow Moses' path, we understand that he never asked anything for himself. Always it was about the people of Israel, saving them, leading them, repenting for them, engaging God about them. Yes, there was one time that Moses wanted to go into the land of Israel and he begged God to let him in. But even that, the sages say, was for the people of Israel in order to lead them, and not, he was afraid that they're going to be left in the desert and still be wandering there. Moses is the pure example of being too busy with other people to think about yourself. And that's what gave him the superlative of being the most humble individual on the face of the planet. But besides being humble, why is being humble such a great conduct to have? We understand also being humble is a road map or road mark to understand who is a great individual. In our day and age, we think greatness comes within from being rich or being successful or being smart. But the scriptures say, you know who is a great person? A humble person. You want to find greatness, go find the humble person. We see that in the scriptures. In the scripture it says, Ki Hashem Elokechem Elokei Elokim, God is the Almighty. He is great, He is strong, He is dignified. Why is He so strong? What did He do? And the scripture carries on. We expect to see, to hear that He split the sea of reeds, that He took the people out of Egypt, but no. The verse carries on and says, He did not take any bribe. He deals with orphans and widows. He loves the stranger, and He feeds them, clothes them, and gives them shelter. God is great. You know why He's great? Because He deals with the other and not with Himself. And the Gemara, the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud says the same thing. And there it says, whenever you want to find someone great, look for that is humble. And that's where you're going to find greatness. We understand it from the scriptures. Isaiah says that. David the king in the book of Psalms. It's all over the scripture. But two stories will illustrate, will bring it home much better. My late Rosh Yeshiva of Aaron Lichtenstein of blessed memory used to give every few years a talk, the talk, for 40 minutes about something fundamentally important. Once it was the assassination of the Rabin. He gave a remark on that. or the slaughter in the Marat HaMachpelah by Baruch Goldstein, or about the Gulf War. Every few years on current events used to give a very important speech where everybody used to congregate, stop their learning and listen to the Rosh Yeshiva about current events. One day he calls for the famous 40-minute session. We couldn't understand why. Nothing is in the news. Story goes as follows. There was an orphan, an 18-year-old guy that came to the yeshiva, came to the learning place. And we know that our orphans, in terms of the laws of mourning, has to and pray and lead the morning services, all the services, but in that case the morning service. In the yeshiva, morning services are fairly quick because people wanted to engage in their study. But that individual prayed slower than average. And the people did not like that. So they hinted to him that he must go and lead the prayer somewhere else. When my blessed Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Aaron Lichtenstein of blessed memory, heard that, that's when he gave the 40-minute speech. This great man, the great scholar, could not walk away for such a great tragedy in his eyes and in our eyes. The abuse of an orphan. Not abuse physically, but abuse mentally. And he quoted the famous Maimonides, that orphans, we have to treat them with respect and dignity, and you should not hurt them with physical or with words. And if you do, the punishment is already in the scriptures. And when he shouted that out loud, and the walls of the seminary shook, I will not forget that my whole life. And there I saw greatness, a great scholar that deals with the most minute things. Greatness and humility in the same pattern, in the same way. But there's another story, and this time is about a businessman. We're talking about me going on different cruises, and the cruises, there's all the fancy people that come from the States and from Europe, and they come to enjoy themselves on the cruise. And mostly people come and engage and have a good time. And then many people that serve them, waiters, dishwashers, the staff of the ship. Usually you don't give a second thought to the staff of the ship. Yes, you're nice to them, but you don't really engage. After all, they're just staff. There's one individual that used to take good care of the staff, asking them how they are, how their families are, and talking to them in length, and really engaging with these staff people. They used to serve 8 months on the ship. It's not easy. We get people from Philippines and from Indonesia. And after he left, he gave me his card. I thought he was one of the guys, you know, that saved a penny to go on a cruise. He was the CFO of Ford International. Obviously a great man in his own capacity, very important job. But this individual took the time to engage every single worker and to ask them how they are. And that really amazed me. Greatness and humility always come together. Friends, humility lets you walk out of yourself and to engage the world in order to make it a better place. And that's one of the greatest gifts that Jewish people gave the world. Be humble, be with humility, engage the world and step out of yourself in order to be with the other. In this day and age, there's a great danger as usual regarding that conduct of humility, because every single individual that has a certain trade, any type of thing, he can dance, he can sing, he can play the banjo, he can jump through a hoop with fire, he can stack a deck of cards or make a magic trick, already is in some kind of reality show or about a Star is Born or America Has Talent. It doesn't matter. His small, minute trait is heightened. And when that is heightened and they publish him and they make him into a mega superstar and he has millions of views on YouTube, he already feels so full of himself, so high and mighty. And he does not have any place for another individual. He's not a second fiddle. He's the first one. But what comes after that is that the talent hunters move to the next star. And when they move to the next star, he's deflated. He is on the floor. They move on to the next one. How many stars you know that are shooting up like fireworks and then they die after a few months? And why is that? Because in that moment they did not act with humility. They did not think of the other, of engaging them, of bringing them, or saying, it's not the right time for me. It's not the place for me. Let me include other people in my voyage, in my endeavor. These are not great people. Great people are those that come with humility. So remember the stories that we started from. Second fiddle. Let's all try and be a second fiddle and leave the stage for the maestro. With acting with humility, yes, in the end, you will get recognition, like Moses did, the most humble individual on the face of the planet.